This is, I believe, a 1934 Patterson console all-wave radio. My high school auto shop teacher gave this to me and asked me if I could fix it. He wanted to see it work again. The termites have made good work out of this. The cabinet's pretty much shot. It's pretty much on its way to the dumpster, but I thought a video getting it to work might be kind of fun. It's too bad because it's a really neat cabinet. Patterson radios seem to be very rare. I could find very few of them, pictures of them in existence online on the Antique Radio website. There's just very little information and real pictures of them out there. Made in Los Angeles. Patterson Radio is not a name that I really, it's not like Philco or RCA or any of the big ones. There's no real identifying information on this. The nameplate's gone, the model number plate's gone, or at least I don't know where to look. To identify this radio, I went through all the Patterson service data in the rider's manuals and found what closest matched to what I see as far as tube count and just overall the plugs on the back and the controls. You can see here the termites have really eaten this up, and he sprayed it with some type of poison, but I don't think it worked because I still see the sawdust coming out. So it's completely shot, unfortunately. Patterson all wave. This is made in Los Angeles. Down here it lists the bands, and we'll be able to see that better when I get it apart. Let's get into it, see if we can get it to work. I don't expect it will take much just to get it to work. The speaker's got a big hole in it too, so it's too bad, but it's not a good example of an old radio. Alright, you can see here where the termites are really enjoying this thing. That's okay, they are in here big time. That's okay, a little polyurethane cement and some screws will fix this right up. This is the back leg anyway. These are the two in the front. We don't care, it's on its way to the dumpster. Let's just see if we can make it work. This is the 10-tube model, 10-tube chassis. These are IF transformers. These are tubes stuck in here. In here, I believe, is the power transformer, the tuning gang. I believe this is a super heterodyne set because it's got IF transformers. How you adjust them is... I'll have to take a look at that. Field coil Magnavox speaker. These old radios that had the field coil use very small electrolytic capacitors. Like it might have two 8 microfarad or two 10 microfarad. The field coil does the majority of the filtering and smoothing. So I got a rectifier, push-pull audio output, driver, and then I'd imagine this is the detector, IF, I don't know. We'll get into the schematic. Anyway, let's actually grab a variac on this one and power it up and see what it does. Okay, the variac is at 0. So let's see. Presumably, I'm going to assume that's volume. Turn that all the way up. And now the watt meter is between the line and the variac. There's a 150 watt light bulb in series with the output of the variac and the radio. And you usually don't see me do this in my videos, bring stuff up on a variac And that's because the majority of stuff that I work on this channel is basically around 1960, some late 50s or to 1970. And by that time the capacitors were pretty good, and they rarely short, and I rarely see them short. But something this old, this is what, 82 years old or something like that? Anyway, if I got the right model year. Anyway, here we go. Let's go. 8.4 watts is just the Variac. So the light bulb is just there for padding, and the light bulb's starting to glow. The light bulb is just there kind of for padding in the event that I bring it up and it starts working and then something shorts. Bring the light bulb into frame here so we got everybody in one shot. There we go. So I'm almost at 90 volts. That's 100 volts. That's 110 volts. It's 120 volts. And I do hear some crackling. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up to 130. Because there is a lot of drop across that light bulb. There's probably 25 volts drop or more across that light bulb. So I'm going to take the Variac up all the way. I'm going to try something. We're going to pull the rectifier out. Oh. So our wattage draw with the rectifier out is 66 watts. The rectifier in, it's 99 watts. So I got to figure out one of these. You ever notice how only ghetto people with junk cars have noisy alarms on them? You never see a nice car in a nice neighborhood with an aggravating alarm. It's always junk cars that aren't worth anything. All right. I kind of promised myself I'd hold the commentary to a minimum on this video. But one of these knobs you push and hold on. Okay, so this is what you do. And I have to admit I dropped this radio because the legs are broken. It fell on its back a couple times. You push it in to change the band. And then you pull it. Oh hell, how do you work this damn thing? Anyway, you push it in to change the band. Aggravating. It's old, it's worn out. Alright, I got it on broadcast there. And let's do this. Let's bypass the light bulb. That light bulb's taking a hell of a lot of voltage out of it. I really don't want to. But some of these, you know, if they're 25, 30 volts too low, they won't work. Okay, the light bulb's bypassed. It went up to 110 watts. You know, I don't even see these tubes glowing. And the same thing, it's doesn't sound like that speaker's rubbing. But yeah, nobody home. I imagine that's probably the audio stage. Alright, it's got two adjustments back here, sensitivity and silent tuning, and both of these are frozen. Oh crap, now it's working. This one's frozen. Yeah, it was working. Hello, I'm here from the I Love Asbestos campaign, and I'm here to give you melanoma. Or no, mesothelioma. That was it. I'm scared to look underneath, but yeah, it's like a friction. This is like a friction drive, where this turns the, and it ain't frictioning no more. What kind of operation is this right here? Huh? What kind of operation is that? Oh boy. You know what? Where are my pliers at? Oh boy, you didn't like that, huh? I don't know. You know what? That's it. You're done. I should actually be referring to them as devices. And yeah, I would rather relocate them than destroy them, because they're just here to dine on the termites. And that, whatever that was. So, anyway, back to the electronic part of the show here. That's kind of interesting. That's one like banana slicer. Must be fine-tuning banana slicer. Anyway, this is some primitive stuff. Look at these capacitors. I can't ever remember seeing capacitors that had this taper on the end like these do. That looks to be the main electrolytic right there. And it looks like it might have been bypassed with these dry electrolytics at some point. Paralleled 8 microfarad, and I'm going to assume that's another 8. I don't think those are OEM. It looks like the IF transformers up here are tuned from the bottom, which is kind of interesting. Very, very primitive. Look at these resistors. I wonder how much of this stuff has been replaced. Brown, black, yellow, is that how you read that? Is that 100K? I love my airplane. What do we have here? Centralab. I'm not sure all that right there is original equipment. I'm not sure that Sprague is original equipment. I would much more think that that one down there is original equipment. This sucker's old. There's a can dome right there. Yeah, that can't be original. Is that a can dome? That says something on it. OEM would not put a resistor in series with a resistor like that, so there's something going on there, some kind of modification. I see that has a rubber cap on it right there where it rototubulates on the condenser. Huh. Have to come up with some. You know, this is not making a whole lot of sense to me. So this is the electrolytic, and these two wires here are separate, but both of them, this one here and that one, they both come down here, and they both connect right here. Here. And then this capacitor, I guess that's the negative side, connects to here. Here we have a modified. So why are they connecting the electrolytic negatives to this big power resistor? What? Ooh, crusty. What's going on? So this must be the power transformer. So interesting how they got all these wires folded over. So the power transformer comes out of the power transformer. Oh boy. And is this negative? Is there some kind of floating ground on this thing? So where does this go? This goes to this transformer here, or is this a choke? And then the other side of this choke goes to this contraption over here. But what a bodge job that all is. Look at how they got I love how they just got this capacitor soldered right to the frame of the transformer. But what a cluster this thing is. Alright, time to get a magnifying glass and the schematic. I hope it's the right one. You know what might actually work in place of this rubber thing is one of those faucet washers. You know, that go in the older faucets. Anyway, I've got a ton of those here. This thing is bodge job city. Look at that right there. I don't even know what's going on with that. Anyway, this has had a incredible amount of modifications and work done to it. And unfortunately, it's not even close to the schematic anymore. It's just totally botched beyond. And I thought, oh, well, let's just knock out a quick radio video, 10-15 minutes. Yeah, right. That's never the way it is with vintage electronics, you know. It's always a total time suck. Anyway, here's the schematic, I believe. Of course, it doesn't even Doesn't even look like this thing at this point. And it's a 262 IF, so it's old like the radios. I thought this was an interesting thing right here. Tubes in this set have been carefully checked and reheated 4 times before shipment. Occasionally, a tube has a small air leak that will allow gas to enter and cause it to become inoperative within the first 30 days. That's infant mortality. After this time, they should give about 1,500 to 2,000 hours of satisfactory service. So, yeah, I've never really seen a number, an hour number applied to tubes like that, but you should get 1,500 to 2,000 hours of satisfactory service out of these things. I don't know if the compactrons, the more modern ones, were better or not. I have a feeling they were. I kind of like this right here. This is pretty unique. They talk about here parts required for a vacuum tube voltmeter, right? And they tell you how to, they show you how to build a vacuum tube voltmeter here to service your radio. So, parts required to build a vacuum tube voltmeter using, so different time for sure. Alright, well this came apart fairly easy, which is a good thing, and that rubber is just turned to glass almost. So I don't know how to go about this, because the only way I can think to go about fixing this, because it's so heavily modified, okay, must be those Saturday morning blues, is to literally go through and just assume that this was done by a shop and that this worked after it was done, all these modifications. So the only thing I can think of is just to kind of go through this and test all these parts and replace the ones that are bad, because a schematic's completely worthless to me. This resistor doesn't even exist. This big resistor, this transformer, I wonder if the field magnet went open in the speaker, but if that happened, then the speaker wouldn't work. And the speaker was working. So this is not a substitute for a bad field coil in the speaker and then they put a permanent magnet speaker in there. That's not the case. That's what it would look like. So I think what I'll do is I need to address this so I can tune it. But then I think what I'll do is I'll just, I don't know, wait and see. You know, this thing is working, and it's just low volume, but the sensitivity's there. The sensitivity is there. It's picking up the stations. It's just they're not loud. Let me go through and hit these. Alright, I think I might be able to assume what's going on here, and assume, you know, means make an ass out of myself. But I have a feeling the power transformer was replaced, and I've come up with that a couple different ways. There's 30 volts AC dropped across this, and for all intents and purposes, this is ground. So I have a feeling this has been inserted into the negative lead or the center tap of the transformer in order to compensate for a replacement transformer. And if you look at the way these wires here are folded over, it's like it was a transformer that was used for maybe a TV and the voltage was too high, so they added that resistor to get it down. And I'm sure some of you old radio buffs picked up on that, you know, almost instantly. And you can also see here how the screw holes for the power transformer, which is under that can, have been relocated. I mean, that's obviously not stock, and we got screw holes up here. So I have a feeling the power transformer went bad and somebody did all of these modifications to get the voltages the same. Now, with that said, there is no filter issue with this. The filtering is good. I still have the light bulb in series with the set, and our B plus on the main filter is 180 volts. And our AC, if I go here to AC, this is just a rough test, but our AC is 0.2 volts, 0.1 volts, so there's no filtering trouble here at all. Electrolytics are good. I'm sure this one here is open and it should be cut out of the circuit because those gel-filled ones are known to short, but for now I'm just going to leave it. These red dry electrolytics are probably doing all the filtering. I wonder if we could get a date code. I'm not real good at date codes, but is that 1954? This transformer says Philco on the bottom of it. And look at this big can ohm resistor that looks like it's been jumped over with these dog bones. Alright, check this out. So our B plus comes up to this series of resistors here, right? I'm going to assume that this is that can dome thing. So we start out with full B plus and then it should step down as it goes to these different stages. So we start out right there and we have 179 volts, and now we'll go to the next step and we have 137 volts. That seems reasonable. And then we go to the next step. I don't want to shock myself right now. And we have 81 volts. And then we go to the next step, which should be here. You can see someone's paralleled these dog bones across it, probably because it was open. Another no-no. And here we have 1.5 volts. So we go from 80 volts here to 1.5 volts here. So just a rough guess, following this green wire over to here. I wonder if this is shorted. Pulling that down. If we go to the next stage down, it goes to 0 volts. So I don't know what's going on with that. Alright, well there's no mistake. There's no problem here because that connects over here to the sensitivity control. And when the sensitivity is at maximum, that's grounded. So I'm not quite sure what, and of course that pulls this voltage down. So I'm not quite sure exactly what their thoughts were there.
I'm Stu Berger, AM 870, The Answer.
Policies issued by American General Life Insurance Company. Available in all states. For details, visit AIGdirect.com. It takes a lot. Face your own death, but I'm glad I finally did.
Really? Why is there...
Then my neighbor's husband died. Struggle emotionally and financially.
So, this is almost no signal. So from here to here would be the gain through this tube.
Called AIG Direct in less than 5 minutes.
The Hall of Fame induction speech that Tigers play in Akron.
3 key ingredients that are great.
8% warranty car insurance with Geico. Go to geico.com or call.
That's a pretty hot signal right there. I have this turned almost all the way down. And you know, it has this mute function on here, this, what do they call it? Silent something? Silent tuning. How do we just get rid of that crap? I don't even want that. I like static between my frequencies.
Supposed to be stuff in the future. Do you salute?
Okay, so there's a classic oldies station, and you know, I only got one IF stage here because this is the input from the oscillator into the first IF stage, then the second IF stage into this transformer and out there, and it's hot.
Blues and oldies are here on LA Oldies. Cases.
And that's only with a 16-inch clip lead for an antenna, so I got really hot gain right there, and then the gain drops between here and here. I think I might have found one problem. There's a broken wire right here. This is coming from the detector into the volume control. This is going to the grid of the audio tube. I think that's one of the main problems. Is this the across the line capacitor here that's soldered from there to the power switch? What a matinee of dead bugs. Well, there's our answer to the aftermarket power transformer. That's like a 350 watt transformer. That's big enough for a 1960s color TV. Look at the size of the core on that thing. It is. It's like a 3 to 350 watt transformer. No wonder why they got a big resistor under there. Alright, I glued the base back together with some polyurethane wood glue, and the termite feces continue to pour out. It's the cabinet's in real bad shape. This is headed for the dumpster, but I might make it work and just paint it with Varathane, clear Varathane, and put it in a friend's shop waiting room and just let people trip out on it before I put it in the dumpster, because it's cabinet's not in good shape, the chassis rusty, very modified. It's a neat radio because I think it's extremely rare. Patterson. Probably very few left. Probably because the power transformers all failed on them. Also, I cleaned this up with a piece of sandpaper, and I've been lubricating the pots. So I'm about ready to reassemble this thing. That buzzing that we thought initially was filter hum was simply because the wire that was broken, disconnected, was one of the audio lines. So it's just like having an open audio line. You get that 60 hertz hum that the audio amp picks up. Well, it only takes 4 screws to get to the grill cloth. Pretty amazing. The serviceability, you know, is just, they don't make them like this anymore. I just need to find some, maybe some burlap. I don't know, let me see what I can find around here. Maybe an old t-shirt, you know, some with the Nike logo on it. Alright, this is just a burlap vegetable sack. You ask the vegetable manager at the supermarket and they just give you these for free. They usually have a pile of them in the back room. Alright, so there it is. And yeah, it doesn't look as good as real grill cloth, but you know what? It didn't cost me anything and it took 5 minutes to change it. And I didn't even trim the bag. I just stuck the bag in there and screwed it together. That way I didn't ruin the bag. That way when I get rid of the radio, I can pull my burlap sack back out. I'll just button this up a little bit somehow. Just button it up. But definitely looks better than it did. Alright, I filled the holes in the top with Bondo, and I just took a saw and cut this off. The lip used to extend all the way out here, but the termites had eaten it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sand this a little bit more and clean it up. And then I'm just going to put a light coat of Varathane on the top of it, I think. Just kind of leave the rustic look there. I had this in the garage, some leftover water-based stain and polyurethane. And I just was out here talking to somebody for a while, and I kind of just went over this thing and just wiped as much of the old crap as I could off, and just went over it and just did it. So just did it with a brush. It's not real good, but it is what it is. So the termite damage is pretty horrific, but making something look, you can see the veneer is separating there, but making something look dark, really improves the contrast and kills a lot of the dings and dents and all of that.
Just don't mistreat me, and I'll be good to you. 'Cause if you should lose me, oh yeah, you'll lose a good thing.
So the basic goal with this project was to start on this thing Saturday morning and basically have it ready to go to listen to Disco Saturday Night, which for some reason I've been enjoying that show. I'm not sure why, but on 1260 AM, which is the oldie station, but they do disco mixed 70s, late 70s, early 80s stuff on Saturday night, and I think I met that goal. The cat's gonna walk through the frame there. He didn't get his food, so he's gonna show that he's aggro. After we listen to a few minutes of annoying disco music, I think I'm gonna pull the chassis and we'll check some of those capacitors just for entertainment value. I'll get the cap checker out here and we'll just check the capacitors, a few of those papers, and see if they're any good. The radio seems to work okay. It does howl a lot, but it talks about that it will howl in that service data that I have. Oh yeah. It's Mac tonight, baby. Need me a toxic hamburger right now. Some of those nasty fries. Mac tonight.
Dinner at McDonald's. It's Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
How about some Elvis?
Why can't you see what you do?
You know, the distortion is the output tubes are so weak. One of them hardly does anything. The push-pull output's totally bad.
We can go on together with suspicious minds.
It's Southern California's biggest Saturday night dance party, the original Disco Saturday Night on LA Oldies, K-Surf, AM 1260 and AM HD Stereo, KSUR Beverly Hills. Also in HD Stereo at KKGO HD2 Los Angeles and streaming worldwide at laoldies.com.
Disco Saturday night.
Keep it here as we keep the great disco hits rolling your way on laoldies.com.
Okay, let's get that chassis out and check some capacitors. Goals are important. So I put the disco station on this radio, and for some reason it sounds like it's playing a little slower. I'll have to check the speed, make sure it's working right. Alright, well here's the first one, and I believe it says it's a 0.02, and you can see the eye opening we get there. Non-existent, and we'll go to leakage 50 volts here. Leakage at 50 volts, so that's the first one, and it's trash. It's not even a capacitor anymore. Okay, here's the second one. This is one that must have been replaced in the 50s. It's a 0.02 also. I'm on 50 volt leakage. It's shorted. Alright, this one out of circuit. Same thing, 50 volts, shorted. I checked that capacitor right there. Same thing, shorted. This thing doesn't have any capacitors in it. They might have been capacitors in the 50s, but not anymore. This thing has been exposed to a lot of humidity, so all these are garbage. Every single one of them, except maybe those two red ones. I'm checking this. It says the minimum value is supposed to be 50 for this tube. That one fails. Here's the other one. This one measures 70, which is well above 50. Minimum value there for the number 59 is 50. See, minimum value 50. Every single one of these capacitors is shorted and leaky and not even a capacitor anymore. Tubes are weak. I'm going to take this over and plug the speaker back into it, the field coil. We'll let it run for 5 minutes, and then I'll put the FLIR camera on it. We'll see if we can see any of these wax capacitors getting hot from the leakage. Well, no heat from the capacitors that I can see. That's that big power resistor, that add-on power resistor. So what happens if we get away from that? That resistor is 220 degrees. These resistors up here, these are the ones that they bridge the can ohm with. $150 degrees on that one. 150 basically on that one. These other things you're seeing are just the tube sockets, the bottoms of the tubes. Yeah, it just needs a complete recap and probably all new resistors too. See if we can see any heat from the field coil. Oh yeah. Not bad. All these capacitors right here, these big ones, are just all decoupling. Basically, they're just coming from the different stages of the resistor to ground to couple any AC off. And I have a feeling the reason why they're so big, 0.1, 0.2, 0.25, is that because the IF frequency is so low, they need big capacitors. And all these down here are basically the audio stuff, and they're all about 0.2. I've decided I'm going to recap this set. I'm going to order 2 values of ceramic capacitors for this. I went through and I made a list of all the capacitors that were here, and these can all basically be broken down into 2 values. All of these here, basically a 0.22 can be used. I have a feeling this 0.5 is a replacement that somebody just stuck in there. That doesn't appear on the schematic anywhere. Everything on the schematic is 0.1 and 0.25, and then these down here can all be broken down into 0.22. I'm not sure about this postage stamp capacitor. It looks like there's a few of these. It looks like they're using this more of a standoff than anything, because this is just going from B plus to ground. And the same thing here. I guess I could test this thing. I almost don't want to try and desolder it and heat it up. But yeah, it looks like there's 2 of those in there. Oh no, here's another one here. Postage stamps. It almost looks like they're using them as like terminal strip standoffs more than capacitors. All the resistors checked okay, believe it or not. Like, really good. So there will be a video part 2 on this coming up sometime in the future. We'll just recap it for fun. It's not that expensive. Let's see how much better it works. A few people were wondering if I was to do a resurrection video and the resurrection failed, would I actually post the video and post the mistakes I make? Absolutely. I don't conceal or delete, or I just edit out pretty much redundancies, or when I start stuttering real bad or coughing. But pretty much these videos are one take, like almost live. And if I ever do a resurrection and I get no results or negative results, I'll post that video too. I spend pretty much a day making a video. I'm not going to just throw the video away for that week because I don't get the results that I desire. That's life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. So far, I haven't had a resurrection that I couldn't handle or that I didn't get some type of positive results. I'm sure it'll happen one of these days. It's bound to happen.